Next, we need more tasers to deal with more knife crime. The message from Northamptonshire Police is they increase training to allow officers in towns and countryside to carry one. Bedfordshire Police have 100 specially trained officers who can carry a taser. In Cambridgeshire, that number is 150. But now 226 officers in Northamptonshire Police are qualified to have one. Well, Stuart Ratcliffe is outside their headquarters tonight. Stuart.
Yes, now tasers have been used in the UK since 2003. In fact, this force was one of the first in the country to actually use them. Now, they work by firing two electrodes at the body. They carry an electrical charge which then stuns the person. Now, their use is controversial, and today this force announced it was training another 50 officers to use tasers.
Put it down! Put down the knife!
Corby 2015, and this Northamptonshire police officer is faced with a man wielding an 8-inch carving knife. And it's this sort of incident the force believes a taser could avoid. And with knife crime on the rise, training is now underway to arm a further 50 officers.
You know, we had an incident at the weekend where someone actually wanted to stab themselves and they were tasered and actually probably saved their life on the back of it. But there are other examples, as you say, knife crime or other threats to life where it's necessary to use. But really doesn't want to be used unless it's a last resort.
But more officers than ever have the option to use that last resort. In 2015, Northants had 76 trained officers. A further 100 were trained the following year, and this year an additional 50 officers, taking the total up to 226. But some campaigners feel that taser use is too widespread and should only be limited to firearms officers.
If I was tasered now, I'd drop to the floor. I wouldn't be able to stop my head from falling on the concrete floor. And the police officer who pulls that trigger just doesn't know what's going to happen next. It's quite a serious and significant use of force. And what I want to see, and I think what everyone wants to see, is proportionality in police use of force.
But Northamptonshire's Chief Constable argues force is proportionate, and actually tasers are mostly used as a deterrent.
The taser was only discharged 21 times last year, and that's out of the many thousands of incidents that officers will have deployed to, but only used 21 times. Statistically, we know that as a police officer, you are 4 times less likely to be assaulted if you are carrying taser. It is the mere deterrent of that kit that actually makes the difference. I want to be clear, we don't want to use taser. Police officers don't want to use taser, but what they want to have is in their arsenal of kit is the relevant tool to do the job, to get the job done.
What is perhaps surprising to some is the extra officers being trained to use these tasers will be deployed mostly in rural areas of the county.
The response time to a rural location just takes that little bit longer. So it's better that they're on the hand and they're in their community. You know, I made a commitment to rural policing, and it continues to be part of us backing that up.
Last year in Northamptonshire, 380 officers were assaulted. That's more than one every single day. But it's hoped greater use of these will reduce that, but crucially also reduce the risk of harm to the public. Now, it is worth remembering that there are strict Home Office guidelines into how and when a taser can be used. And every time this force uses a taser, a full assessment is carried out to see whether those guidelines have been followed. But in a recent YouGov poll, it found that the majority of the British public agreed that the police forces should be allowed to use tasers. Louise.
Thanks, Stuart.